Hi, it's Kristen Cooper, your mortgage gal. Just want to jump on here and talk about strategies to help you in this market. Now, the biggest thing about this market is understanding the market and being able to articulate to the client what they need to be looking at in this market to make a good decision moving forward. So today we're going to go over some information, some things that we can discuss and things to keep top of mind to help with strategies in this market. So really what we want to be looking at, as we're moving into this market is explaining to clients, about what does net worth mean, what does return on investment mean, and all of that, because I think really understanding that helps them make an educated decision.
Hey, Kristen, down here. Just wanted to dive in here and show you some numbers, some information. Right now, the biggest question I'm getting and the biggest comment that I'm getting is around interest rates. Should I wait to buy? What does it look like? And I think there's a huge opportunity that a lot of people are not looking at or don't realize. And so what you're looking at here is, let's just assume qualifying, all that good stuff, that we're looking at a purchase of 3% down with a 500,000 purchase price. Well, based on where interest rates could be for you today, your total payment, including property taxes and insurance, might be around this $39.12 that you're looking at in the first column. And if you put 20% down, maybe around $32.28. But let's take into consideration what could happen. So let's say that you wait and in a year, interest rates come down. Well, every time interest rates come down, guess what? Property values go up. And that's because now you have more buyers in the market, supply and demand, it always works in the same, driving up prices. And for those of you that had looked, a couple of years ago when we were going through COVID and we had low interest rates, a lot of risks were gone for buyers. And one of those was that you had to put in over asking. They wouldn't even entertain an offer unless you were putting over what they were asking. And so looking at this, even if we say 540, interest rates come down, we're back to that type of environment where you're having a higher over asking price, and then potentially have to come out of pocket for more money if it doesn't appraise. Let's just assume and be conservative and say 540. So in the same scenario, putting 3% down, let's say interest rates drop to 4.99, which is where we think we'll probably get back to the course when rates drop. Let's say it goes to 4.99. Well, now your payment goes from $39.12 to $35.86. Pretty awesome, right? It is awesome. However, if you're paying rent, you also got to factor that in. Because if you're paying rent of $27.50 a month for that first year alone, you're paying an additional $33,000 that doesn't go anywhere. That's just not money that's invested. It's not included in your net worth. You're not getting any return on it. So although you're saving this, this payment from $39.12 to $35.86, you also spent $33,000 rent, plus you're paying $40,000 more for the home. So let's say that you can afford to buy, and let's say that you do the first option here at 3%. Yeah, your payment's $39.12, but you no longer are wasting on rent. And now this last column that we're looking at, let's say we get an opportunity, rates drop, and now you can go in the rate drop program, and we get your rates down to, let's say, 4.99, and you bought that house, for $500,000, but your loan amount, let's say, is $485. Well, now you're looking at a payment of $33.11. So even if it's a year or two that it takes rates to get down, which a lot of economists are actually saying they think it's lower, some are saying it's going to be next year. But let's just say that, in the next year or two, interest rates drop, your payment's down to $33.11, which is great. Whereas if you wait to buy, you're paying more for the home, you waste money on rent, and your payment's even higher. So you got to look at all the facts and the data. Another thing is we really want to focus on net worth and wealth, right? So if you look at assuming you pay $27.50 for rent, and a 5% annual increase of rent year over year, in 5 years, you would have paid $182,000 to nothing. That would have been wasted money. Versus if you buy in the 5 years, you now have $29,000 net worth. What that means is you paid down your balance $29,000. That's your equity. That's your money. That doesn't even take into account appreciation, which they're still forecasting that we'll have over a 4% appreciation rate this year, and then next year probably even greater if rates drop, and then when rates drop even greater, right? So looking at that option, and then if we're able to get your rate down, you can see even more, you're going to have a net worth. Now look at 15 years. 15 years, you're going to have zero net worth, meaning because you paid rent. Well, if you pay rent, that's an expense. You have nothing, no net worth that comes from that. Versus if you purchase this home today, and even staying in the loan that it is, if it's going to be rates that drop, you can see your net worth is, going to be about $543,000 with the 3% down. What would you do with that much money in 15 years, right? This is how we get to retirement planning and retirement building. Now, a lot of people say, okay, that's great, but let's look at the short-term effects. So let's just assume, again, $27.50 for rent, 5% rate increase, and you paid rent for 2 years, 24 months, right? Look how much you wasted in rent that you have applied to nothing. Versus if you go with the 3% down program purchasing, assuming those terms for 2 years, you now pay down the balance of 10,000. So instead of wasting 67,000, you now have gained 10,000. Even bigger spread, right? Net worth, not even taking into account appreciation. So you can see your net worth that you're looking at here is going to be, even greater. So your net worth, if you were to purchase in, net worth in 1 year, could be great. Because you're paying in the principal, how much you put already into the investment, and then this doesn't even take into account appreciation. So I think it's really important when you're looking at the idea of do I purchase or not. Do I purchase not today is a big question, but the bigger question is, when am I ready to take a little risk in order to get the reward? And what I mean by that is buying a home is a risk. Even though it's over your head, there is a level of risk in any investment that you make. But you're going to have a bigger reward if you're able to purchase in this market, knowing where it's going. And so understanding the facts of that, I've been in this for over 20 years. I follow all these economists. I watch all the data. I think it's really important to make an educated decision and understand where I am today. You're going to be able to afford the home. If we can qualify you, that means you're going to be able to, you may have to adjust some things, but whatever we can qualify, it's not a stated program. We can see what you qualify for, but you got to also take into consideration, you're going to have pay raises. Do you have any expenses that are going to be gone in the next year or two? That's going to level you up, and rent is going to continue to increase, which means that spread's going to get even bigger and bigger. And even though you're going to be making more money, rent's going to go up. So it's going to take the additional versus the mortgage, you know what to expect. You know what your payment's going to be, kind of what to anticipate, and then you start having a bigger gap of wealth, meaning that you're going to have more money left over to be able to invest in retirement, college planning, whatever those things are. Call me today. Let's look at these numbers. I think it's really important that we adjust for you specifically, look at your rent. Some people, it doesn't make sense to buy, and I'm going to tell you that it doesn't make sense to buy and give you a plan of things to do to help put you in a better position. But for most people, huge opportunity for you to buy today. So give me a call.
So I think it's really important that we focus on net worth. So the strategies in this market is really focusing on why are they deciding to look into buying? So there's usually a need that needs to be met, and really focusing on that need as, do they need a bigger house? Is it location? We really need to understand, why are they even talking to you? Why are they considering, and if they're not, what is it that we can be having a conversation around that's going to help get them engaged? So even if they're not, interested, haven't reached out, really kind of looking over, where they're at and say, okay, well, do you plan to retire one day? What's your plan around retirement building, and really focusing on that. If they currently don't own a home, that's really where you want to focus on, is going to be net worth. And so even looking at buying versus renting, these are the pillars that we need to focus on. Is, yeah, sure, your rent might be a little bit cheaper today, but this here shows, all the way through year 9, your rent may be cheaper, but at year 4, it would level out. Versus if you wait for 4 years to buy, now it's going to be even higher, and you're not going to be able to level out. Versus if you buy today, eventually, where your rent would have been is where you're going to be, and you've paid down your loan balance, which is your equity. You gain the appreciation. You may have a mortgage interest deduction depending on your taxes. All of those need to be considered. So many people are just like, you get the call and you're like, what do you want to keep your payment at? Oh, right now I'm paying $2,500 for rent, and that's what I want. And then explaining, well, rent's not giving you a return on your investment. That's why it's so, so cheap. What's fair? What do you think is fair to pay in an investment? Like, how much more do you think is fair when you're getting a return, and explaining what that return is? So going through this and showing them, what they're looking at, and the net gain of buying a home over the years is super imperative when we're looking at it, because making sure that they understand all these numbers and what that looks like is important, and really focusing on it. For those that are in their home currently, you really want to look at the net worth still, but showing them, if you stay in your current home, yeah, you have a 2 or 3% interest rate, but what does it look like with you buying up into another home? What does your overall net worth look like? Because yeah, maybe the rates are higher today, but eventually rates will come down. I don't like to guarantee a rate's going to come down in the next year, because I think that can put you in a tough position. I explain the market, show the data, and show everything points to us being in a position that rates should drop in the next 2 years. So they still need to be able to afford their payment, but also showing, here's what your net worth looks like today, staying in your home. Here's what your net worth looks like in 10 years if you sell, buy, and then during that time you readjust, the mortgage so that it's at even better terms. So really diving in deep and explaining the information. I think it's our job as, experts in this field, if you will, that we help encourage people to be able to stretch themselves a little bit, because they have the mindset of, I'm comfortable right now, It's what I can afford right now. And they don't realize that really leveling up takes them to the next level. How many of us, I mean, I know me too, like when you buy and you move up, it's always like, and we could afford it, obviously, because we're, making that adjustment. But it took us having to step out and be able to do it for us to be able to readjust and change, and it makes you level up. At the end of the day, most people, when you buy, you end up making more money. It's data and stats that have been proven. You become more productive, you have a drive, you have a focus, you have a purpose. And so that helps you to be able to excel even more in life. Not to mention that you're going to be getting, pay increases and things like that as time continues. So those are the strategies in this market, is really focusing on education, really expanding and explaining on net worth, which does require an investment. And so really, working on our language and our focus terms of investment, rate of return. We don't talk about expenses and costs as a payment. They're investing into something that's giving them a rate of return. And what does that look like? Being able to educate them and help support them, because it is a big decision. So I hope this was helpful. Please reach out to me. I'd love to meet with your clients and go over all this information with them and make sure we're on the same page and that they have their best foot moving forward, as long as you as well.